with another episode of Blind Edit, where I edit without knowing first what I'm going to do to the photo. In this episode, I wanted to show you how to do a nice bokeh blur. This already has the blur in there, but we want to give it more of a radial blur. Somebody was asking how to do that without having actions. So I will get right into it. This photo is basically straight out of the camera. There was a bug here and a bug here, and it just looked like dust on my sensor, so I actually got that out of there. Otherwise, I have not done anything else to this photo. No color corrections or anything. I really like the way this came out as it is. So now looking at it, I'm really unsure if I'm liking the dock here or not. I'm thinking that it distracts a little bit. I love the duck in here. It was something I didn't even notice when I looked at this picture at first. So, so for this episode, I'm not even going to mess with this. I'm not going to clone that out. I'm going to leave it here. I'm just going to show you how to do the Radial Bokeh. So the first thing I want to do, I'm going to move this. And by the way, the Flashback Express 5 recorder is a free app to use to capture your screen, which they graciously, like I said, they graciously offer it for free. So that's what I use. Okay, so the first thing you want to do is you want to grab this background layer and, oops, I'm sorry, and you want to pull it down and duplicate it by pulling it over to this little box here. Okay, that duplicates that layer. So then you will go up to your filter, blur, and you can pick so many different kinds of blurs. For a more natural blur that you'd see in your camera, I would use the lens blur or the Gaussian blur. But we're gonna try to give it a little bit of a swirling bokeh, so we're gonna go with a radial blur. Now, as you can see, there's no preview to this, so you're just gonna have to kind of play around with it. And this is the settings that I usually use. Just a very, very small amount of blur, about 10. You can always go back and switch it if you like. You can either use good or best. We can try with best and see what happens there. So press OK, and this will blur your duplicated layer, and it'll give it like a circle type of blur. It'll go in a spiral kind of way. So we will wait for that. And not sure why my computer's going so slow, but be patient. We'll see how this one works out. If it's a little too much, we can go back and bring down the settings. I love how the natural sunburst is in the area up here, and the sparkles in the water. You can always enhance these even more, and you can always enhance the sunburst even more. But I love how this picture came out. People try to actually mimic this type of photo in Photoshop. Alright, so I am thinking that this is just a little too much radial blur, so you can either go back into your history and click back one, or you can actually just go to edit, step backwards. Okay, or it'll show you right on the screen what your shortcuts are. Alt Control Z. So we're gonna do that. Alt Control Z. Okay. Alright, so let's go back to the filter. We're gonna go to the Radial Blur again. And we are going to actually bring it down. Let's go down to 5. See how that goes. And unfortunately, we're going to have to wait again because I'm not sure why my computer is going so slow. Sometimes the blurs do take a little bit longer, but I'm sure if you have a fast processor, your computer will do this right away. And I think that in the future I'm going to bring out some of these little tiny colorful flowers that are in here, and maybe even bring out the duck a little bit. Okay, so this one's a little bit better. So what I want to do is, it could probably come down even more, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring the opacity of the layer down a little bit. About like that. And then what we want to do is we want to add a layer mask onto this. So over in this corner here, you press this button, it'll add a layer mask. Okay, and what you want to do is you want to press Control, make sure that this right here is clicked. Oops, sorry. Make sure that this is clicked. Make sure you don't have this clicked, but this clicked, the mask. And then you want to press Control I. What that does is it inverts it. Then you'll go over to your paintbrush, and as you can see, the layer is black, and you want to make sure that your paintbrush is white. You always want to do the opposite of what this is. If this was white, you'd want to paint black. So what we're doing was we're actually basically painting on the blur. And I'm going to bring up my brush size. So I'm going to use my right bracket key on my keyboard. Press that and it'll give me the size that I want. So what I want to do is just use a soft brush. As you'll see, I want to bring it all the way down. Very soft brush. Okay, and I'm just gonna paint this on, and I just realized that my opacity is not up. So I'm gonna bring the opacity up. So, okay. I'm gonna paint that all in there, and I'm gonna pretty much stop at the water line there. Maybe a little bit into it. Okay. As you can see, it's very, very subtle. You can hardly see anything. I'll show you before and after. There's the before, and there's the after. Okay. And I'm also going to bring a little bit more. I'm going to close this. I'm going to bring a little bit more on the sides here and into the bottom where there's already a natural blurring bokeh. Okay, the sides and the bottom. And there it is. Very simple. There we go. There's the before and there's the after. Before and the after. Alright, so there's another episode of Blind Edit. You can mess around with the settings more. For some, this radial blur might be a little too much. So you might want to bring your Radial Blur settings maybe even down to maybe even 3 or so, or 2. Go and mess with these a little bit. It's really up to you, but it's pretty easy to do. You don't need actions, you can do it just like that. Alright, have a good day.